Okay guys, welcome back to your Fix Your Dog in 30 Days program with S.M.A.R.T Dog School. Today, we're going to talk about your dog's learning phases. There's 4 of them, okay? Learning phases are what your dog has to go through in order to create better habits. So things if we want to change a behavior, we want to teach a new behavior, we want to encourage your dog to do something maybe novel like a trick or whatnot. These are things that your dog's going to go through initially before you see, positive results. We go through it too. Anytime you want to, a lot of times we see it more when we want to change a behavior. You take an adult human, for example, and you want to stop a behavior that he or she's been doing for a while. You're going to have opposition. And opposition, I'm going to refer to it, pushback or fight. And ironically, in these 4 stages of learning, fight is the very first one. Now, before I get too far, I did make a cheat sheet for this, and it's down in the description below. You can click on it and download the link, but it looks like this. These are the 4 stages of learning. It looks kind of, childish, but it's anyway, we made it. The first stage of learning for your dog, the first phase of learning is called fight. Now, fight is also known as opposition. It's also known as friction. It's known as a bunch of words. We call it fight because that's kind of what it looks like. Let me give you an example. Excuse me. When you start the program, when you start the very part of the program and you put an initial collar and leash, and we're focusing on contact pressure, so anything that touches your dog, when we're starting that process, your dog is going to put up fight because they're not used to holding still. Now, fight can look like a number of things, but most of the time you see dogs, if they have a halter on, they'll start picking at it. If they have a collar and leash on they don't like, they'll start moving away and thrashing their head around. These are normal behaviors, but the thing is, if your dog figures out that form of fight turns off the pressure that they don't know how to turn off right then we just reinforce that behavior by saying that's how you turn it off. Let me put it in perspective. You get in your car. Remember, I've talked in previous videos about the annoying beeping in your car because your seatbelt's not buckled. If that beeping started going on and you started beating the steering wheel and it shut off, the next time you get in your car, if you're not motivated to buckle and that beeping, you're going to start beating that steering wheel again. This fight worked for you last time and you're going to try it again. It happens in all forms of life, but fight, every time something you want to turn off and you don't know how, you go through this level of fight until you figure it out. So these are, when your dog's thrashing like that, if they don't like being held by the collar and they don't necessarily like what you're doing, in our program that we teach, we have to show you how to work through that fight and get to the next phase of learning. Okay? So fight's typically the ugliest procedure, ugliest phase, but it's necessary. Dogs that don't show me fight, dogs that don't go through that, I hate to say this, but a lot of times I end up almost getting bit or getting bit. That's when dogs don't know how to handle their stress and they hold it all in and they don't fight back and they just explode real quick. That's really, really bad. So when I have a dog on my leash and I don't see a level of opposition when I'm changing a dog's behavior, I'm being real cautious because at that point I know that dog's not acting normal, and that's, like I said, usually when the teeth come out. So seeing your dog go through that opposition is actually a good thing. It's normal. Okay, so let's move on to the next phase of learning. The next phase of learning is flight. Flight is where your dog's figured out, okay, fighting didn't work, thrashing around didn't work, pawing at my face didn't work. Now I'm just going to try and get away. I'm just going to move. Maybe if I just move away, the pressure will go away. This is the same in the car. Instead of beating the steering wheel in the car to get the beep to go off, you just kind of opened the door and got out, or you rolled down the window to make the sound not as loud. This is you trying to move away from the pressure instead of figuring out how to turn it off. Dogs do the exact same thing. They'll pull away from you. They'll back up and try and back out of their collar and leash, which are what safety's for. We'll show you guys those as well. But this is called flight. Fight and flight, they kind of go together, okay? The next phase of learning is called avoidance. Avoidance is, if I use the same analogy, if you're trying to avoid that beeping in your car, maybe you picked up your headphones and you put your headphones on or your earbuds in or whatever you did, and you turned up your iPhone and you drowned it out. Or you just start driving and you start talking to your passenger. You're ignoring it. You're avoiding it. And that's not going to deal with it. It's not going to go away, but it's avoiding. Dogs that avoid, when they have pressure on, like from a collar, leash, halter, whatever we're using, dogs that avoid, they do this. They kind of, I'll kind of like that. I'm looking at you right now, but they'll go, they'll just kind of look away and just kind of ignore you. And they think that if they look away enough and they just ignore you, that the pressure goes away. And these are their attempts, fight, flight, avoidance. These are their attempts to turn off pressure because sometime in their life before that, those efforts have worked. Okay? So that's the first three. The last one, typically we don't get to that right away, and it's called acceptance. Acceptance is what you want your dog to get to. They don't care about what's going on, and they accept the change that you're trying to do. And then after you see that, you can move forward and teach them something else. So each step of our process, which we have 5 of, each step we don't go through until we get done with these. And each step we see them again and again. And then ironically, if we change context, if we go to a different location, we go to a different room, we go outside, they go through all these again. So each time we change everything, dogs are super contextual, you're going to see these come up again. Or let's say somebody new comes in the room, another distraction, another dog. The dog's going to go right back and do these again. They have to continually go through them until they get to a level of acceptance to where they're like, you know what, it ain't that bad. You just want me to hang out and chill for a little bit? I'll just sit here and chill. And that's when you get dogs that truly learn how to relax, is when they've hit that level of acceptance enough, and now they're like, okay, I accept the environment as it is. I'm not going to fight it. I'm not going to try and get away from it. I'm not going to just ignore it, but I'm going to accept it and I'm going to live life. This is the mentality you want your dog to get into. And I always call it the hammock mentality, the Caribbean in the hammock. If you're laying in Caribbean and you're relaxing and you're being waited on, it's like you have not a care in the world. That's true acceptance. A lot of dogs, you know how they show it? Dogs they'll shuff. They'll be, I was like, fine, I accept it. It sometimes looks pitiful when you watch them do it because they've had to go through all that to get there. And you're like, if you could just do that right away, everything would be great, So, but dogs have to go through this process just like we go through it. So to cover it, fight, flight, avoidance, and acceptance. Your dogs will go through this when you're changing behaviors. Expect it and you won't be surprised. So again, I'll see you on the next video. Thanks.